One thing I will bet on is rookies with upside, third, fourth, fifth round picks. And I will say this, it's all well and fine to hear it from our mouth. Best way to see the information in person, payhip.com/Dynasty Rewind. Get yourself a copy of our 2024 rookie draft guide. It is beautiful. And hey, if you want to get that and some extra benefits, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Join the $10 tier. You get all that. You get rankings, you get bonus pods, you get a free copy of the guide. And if you just want to check out the Discord for a week for free, you can do a free 1-week trial and maybe upgrade later. Have some fun with it. Ask some questions. Today, we're going to be stashing some rookies. Like I said, third, fourth, fifth rounds. These rounds, we're not going to really get any starters out of here for this year. Sometimes you get lucky. But Nate, who is the first player that you are stashing?
Yeah, one of my favorite stashes in the rookie drafts this year right now is Ray Davis, currently going at Dynasty Rewind ADP of 308. So, this is not a hard pick to acquire. You can pick up a mid to late third round pretty cheap these days, more expensive these days than before probably, but still not too hard. And with Ray Davis, you got James Cook there in the backfield in Buffalo, but outside of that, Ray Davis steps right into the Latavius Murray role, which should put him in for about 100 carries, which as a rookie backup, I'm feeling pretty good about that, especially because if you look at the Buffalo Bills last year, in the second half of the season, after they changed their offense a little bit, they ran the ball a lot more. Starting from week 10 against the Minnesota Vikings and on to the rest of the season, there was only one game that they ran less than 25 times. Meanwhile, at the beginning of the season through the first half, there was only 2 games where they ran more than 25 times. This change in philosophy of their team, and we saw it this year in the offseason as well, as they moved on from Stephon Diggs, they're going to probably play a bit more through the ground moving forward. And that's why they went and got a guy like Ray Davis, who has been extremely productive in his college career and culminated with this last year at Kentucky, where he had 3.81 yards after contact per attempt, which was a career high, and a career high by far, and one of the best numbers in the NCAA. This is a guy who is powerful, hard to take down, in a great compliment to James Cook. I like this backfield that they got going on. I think Ray Davis in the third round, he's going to be someone you can put into your flex spot more often than you probably think right now. A guy that you can go acquire for the 308, and for the 308, I'd move a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who we talked about in the last podcast, don't have a lot of faith in. Or if you need to move someone who's not injured or coming off an injury, Tyler Algier. Go find the Bijan Robinson owner, see if they have a late third, and offer him Tyler Algier. I mean, most times they'll probably take that based on their team need. You get Ray Davis, they're going to be happy with that.
I will say, to add to your point as well, Ty Johnson got 30 carries last year. Okay, he's still there. But Latavius Murray, Damian Harris, who retired, and Leonard Fournette, who should retire, if we combine their carries, let's say we combine everything they did just carry-wise, and give that to Ray Davis, that is 114 carries right off the rip. Not a ton of receptions. We're talking about 19 receptions. So not a ton there, but still a path to touches. It's not unheard of. I know that they did get Frank Gore Jr. as a UDFA, but he's buried
Small.
right. I'm going to go ahead and at the 302, I'm going to pick up a ton of shares. I have been. Carolina Panthers tight end Jatavian Sanders. He did not test well at the combine, correct?
He didn't test badly. This is kind of like the narrative that's going around ever since the combine.
Good as what it was expected.
A lot of the idea of Jatavian Sanders was that he was going to be an athletic freak.
Okay.
And he came out and he tested good, but not great. And that disappointed a lot of people.
For me, it's film greater than testing here. And I think you and I are pretty much on the same footing with that for the most part. He gets open. He's got strong, secure hands. I mean, I think he's going to be a really good security blanket for Bryce Young. That's what young quarterbacks need. I mean, all quarterbacks need a good security blanket underneath that gets open, but especially a young guy, get the ball out quick. Although we have to say the Carolina Panthers wide receiver room is much improved over last year. They got Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette. Johnson was a trade. Xavier Legette was a draft pick, and Jonathan Mingo is still there. Adam Thielen still there. So yet to be seen what's going to happen with Jonathan Mingo. Can I move a 25 third or a couple 25 fourths to get this done, to move up to the 302? Probably not the fourth so much. You might have to add a value player on top of it. I'll package up 2 later thirds if I have to. You're moving up into almost the second round. And guys that are valued around that pick too, and keep Trey cut. Michael Wilson, Raheem Mostert. So you're going to be selling a lot of production up front is the only problem, but you're going to get it on the back end, we believe. And Austin Eckler, maybe he gets a little bit of a career resurgence in Washington. I don't know. Nate, with your next pick, Zach is about to punch through some drywall, as is his use. But who's your stash here, and what is their Dynasty Rewind ADP? Yes, I forgot to mention it. We're using Dynasty Rewind ADP for this. If you want to contribute to the ADP, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. You come mock with us. Hoff is running mocks all the time. Hoff, you're doing a great job. Just wanted to remind you that. Who's your stash here?
This stash is for my boy Zach. Tyrone Tracy, the running back for the Giants, who, look, they got Devin Singletary, Mike. And you and I were just talking about him on the last podcast. Devin Singletary, everywhere he goes, he does great. Everywhere he leaves, they try to replace him. He's the obvious RB1 there in New York, but I mean, you probably can look at the depth chart and let us know. But I don't think there's a lot behind him. Last time I checked, there was none. Tyrone Tracy should step in to an opportunity where he's going to have touches his rookie year. And we're talking about a guy who's currently available at the 412 in DR ADP.
He's practically
free. Practically free. I mean, what's it cost to get the 412 these days? Tell you what, it's not much. I have one here 25 fourth, which is probably going to always get that done, because at the 412, you're like, I'll just push it back and hope I get a better pick at that point. But to get Tyrone Tracy, former wide receiver, played wide receiver for a lot of his career, then switched to running back this past year mainly. He's actually been in college for 6 years now. And that's a little bit of a red flag in itself if he had to switch positions. But he eventually did switch to running back and performed really well with Purdue this past year. 46 missed tackles forced, Mike, on only 114 attempts. So about a missed tackle forced on 40% of his runs, which is elite. That is up there with Bijan, Javonte Williams when he's coming out of college, and Bucky Irving as some of the best at making people miss. Now, is Tyrone Tracy a great runner? And is he a natural running back? I don't think he's as good as many others in this class, but that kind of elusiveness, that kind of pass catching ability that he offers out of the backfield, if he can become a really explosive third down running back, you would see a lot of upside coming out of him, especially for the 412. We always talk about running backs who catch passes. That's some of the best way to have fantasy production, some of the best way to have fantasy production consistency out of the backfield players. So Tyrone Tracy can carve out that role, which it seems like he's fit for it. Then we could see someone that you're going to be putting in your flex his rookie year. There's not a lot of competition there. I don't know what they do in the future, so I don't want to invest in the Tyrone Tracy long term, because I don't think the future running back for the Giants is currently on that team. But in an opportunity like this, where there is not a lot of competition for those third down touches, Tyrone Tracy could be the guy this year, and we could be talking about the upside that he brings. So he's a guy that I want to stash. And like I said, right now, getting a late fourth is not expensive. You move a fourth next year, you move 2 fifths this year, you move some fab, you might be able to make that happen. So Tyrone Tracy, a pretty great stash right now with upside.
You did ask about the Giants running back depth chart. We got Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, your 2 lead backs. Tyrone Tracy is running back 3, who I agree with everything you say to a point. I think he's a career special teamer. Then after that, we have Gary Brightwell, Deion Jackson, Jayshon Corbin, and Dante Miller. There could definitely be a path for touches there.
That's what we always look for, Mike, with these late round stash guys. What is the path to production? Right. And especially with these late round guys, it's hard for me to say, oh, well, 2 or 3 years from now, he's going to have production. Well, he's drafted in day 3. They're going to draft another day 3 running back next year, another day 3 running back the year after that. I'm not going to project these day 3 running backs or wide receivers for production 2 or 3 years from now. That's just ridiculous. It's hard enough to do that with the studs,
Yeah,
so what kind of production can we get from these guys as soon as possible? That's where the value is. Even if you don't like these guys, if there's a pathway to production that gives you an opportunity to flip them, you spend a 412 on Tyrone Tracy, you get some opportunity, you can sell them for early third next year, make your money back and more.
And I'm going to do that at the 401 because I'm going to stash Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Jalen McMillan. Like I said, his ADP, the 401. So in case you're wondering, Chris Godwin is on the last official year of his deal. Technically, he signed through 2027, but 25 through 2027 are considered void years. Mike Evans getting a little bit older, still so productive though. Mike Evans, just put the second he retires, put that gold jacket right on him, please. We like Trey Palmer here at the Dynasty Rewind. We're Trey Palmer stands.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think Jalen McMillan is better. And I think he could also play inside, outside. He's got a nice career yak rec at the University of Washington, 5.6, Nate.
Hey, we love yak rec.
All about that yak rack here. So check this out. Right now, he's valued around guys on Keep Trade Cut like Noah Fant, Greg Dortch. Freaking Greg Dortch, man. And Tyler Boyd, who just signed today with Tennessee Titans. So that will change within the next few days. Like Nate alluded to earlier, in all reality, obtaining fourths is fairly easy. Bundle up a couple fourths. If you really, really want this guy, it's the 4-1, maybe like a 25 third. See if you can get the 4-1 and like a fifth back, something, or $3 fab, as I always like to do. You trade down too. If you're at the 310, you want Jalen McMillan, you think you can grab him at the 4-1, trade down to the 4-1 and get a 25 fourth on top of it.
Sure.
Just a little extra draft capital. There's nothing wrong with trading down in the later rounds too.
I like this stash, Mike, Jalen McMillan, because while I haven't been the biggest fan of McMillan throughout the whole process, the day 2 draft capital is nice, of course.
Yeah.
And then the Bucs coaching staff has talked about how he's not just a slot receiver in their minds. He's a guy that's going to play all the different positions. And then there's the whole narrative that they're going to move Chris Godwin into the slot. That's what the coaches have been saying this past week, is that Chris Godwin's moving back into the slot.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why'd you draft Jalen McMillan if you're going to move Chris Godwin back to the slot? Well, they're saying that McMillan can play the flanker. So I find that pretty intriguing. I don't know if I fully believe that at this point, but if they do, hey, they probably know more than I do. So I am interested in Jalen McMillan more than I was before, because they want to play him out there. They can play him in the slot. They think they can, use him to the best of his advantage.
Hey guys, Bob here, dropping by to interrupt your scheduled programming to introduce today's trusted partner, Aura. A lot of our focus here at the Dynasty Rewind is protecting our Dynasty assets and taking care of the long-term vision. What drew us to Aura is that they reflect this mindset, but with the most important assets in your life. Have you ever received a spam call or a suspicious email? I know I have. And it's not just annoying, it's a sign of a much larger problem. Behind these unwanted calls and emails lie data brokers, which are websites that buy and sell your personal information without your consent. Geez, not great, Bob. What? Okay, weird. You guys see that? Don't know what that was about. I recently did a search for my own name online and was shocked and quite frankly disgusted at my information popping up over multiple data broker websites. And that's when I realized just how vulnerable I was to online threats. But that's where Aura comes in. They're more than just an online security service. They're your personal bodyguard in the digital world. Aura actively identifies which data brokers are selling your information and takes action by sending out opt-out requests on your behalf. Not only does this cut down on all those annoying spam emails and phone calls, but it also shields you and your loved ones from potential cyber threats and hackers. And they don't just stop at the protection. They offer unparalleled convenience as well. With their comprehensive suite of tools, you can safeguard your online presence with ease from an app or your desktop, whichever you prefer. I've made the choice to take my online privacy seriously. And with Aura by my side, I have the peace of mind to focus on what really matters. Dynasty Fantasy Football. Just kidding. But if you value your privacy as much as I do, don't wait any longer. Check out Aura today and take control of your online privacy. Go to aura.com/Dynasty Rewind and take a free 2-week trial on us. 14 days to get the full experience, get in on all the tools, and really experience everything Aura has to offer. You can find that link on your screen, in the YouTube description box, or in the pinned comment below. But hey, with all that said, thank you all so much for listening. Now, let's get back to the content you came for.
Let's get back to it. Nate, who is your next stash?
All right, next up, I got 4th round running back, Audric Estime, who got drafted by the Denver Broncos.
You love those day 3 running backs, Nate.
I guess I do. In this class, most of them are day 3 running backs. So
sadly,
that's how it goes. So currently available at the 401 according to our DR ADP. And
can I just butt in right here? We must have filled this out at different times because the DR ADP is always changing. I had Jalen McMillan at the 401, and you have Audric Estime at the 401. So not saying that either of us is wrong. It's just if Nate and I fill it out at different times, Hoff updates the ADP daily.
Where he's sitting right now. Audric Estime has fallen to the 404.
Even better for you.
Even worse for you. Jalen McMillan has risen to the 310 since last night.
Man,
we're catching on. Our community is catching on. That's why you got to join the Patreon. We give you a week free.
That's true. I'm sorry, Nate. I just wanted to clear up any possible discrepancies, please.
No, I appreciate that. So here we got Audric Estime. We've talked about him before. 5'11", 227 pounds. He is a big guy. And in the last podcast, while we talked about Javonte, Audric Estime, he's got that build to run between the tackles, be a bruiser, be someone that you can use along the goal line. And he also has enough speed at the end of the day to break off some big plays too. Last year he had 38 runs of 10 plus yards. He also had 22 runs of 15 or more yards. So he is explosive despite being, more of a bruising back. Sean Payton goes and drafts Audric Estime, and Javante's in the last year of his contract. And Sean Payton loves the idea of using Audric Estime on the first down, the second down, not really as a receiving back, which is fine. I don't think any of us really projected Estime to be a receiving back at the next level. He could do it at the college level, but when you get to the pros, you need someone who's really good at catching the ball and explosive after the catch. You're not going to just throw Audric Estime in there unless you have to. So Audric Estime in that kind of build and that kind of role for this team, I think it's going to be valuable and going to start to eat away at Javonte Williams' opportunities in that backfield. I don't think it's going to be a ton. I think they're going to try to run Javonte as much as they can with the last year of his contract. But right now, outside of Audric Estime, there's not much in this running backfield moving forward after 2024. Like I said, Javonte is on the last year of his rookie contract. Samaje Perine, a likely cap casualty this season. And then we have undrafted free agent Blake Watson, and we have Jaleel McLaughlin back there. So right now, Audric Estime could be the RB1A or 1B of whatever that backfield looks like in 2025. So you stash him right now. You put Audric Estime probably on your taxi squad. You probably don't even need to start him at all this year, but you're going to have opportunity to either hold on to him for some production next year or maybe even sell him, because if you get him for a fourth right now, you probably can throw him for a third next year once Javonte moves on, once we're looking at that backfield. And if they go and draft somebody else to match up with Audric Estime, then you can keep him. You can throw him in your flex play when they're playing a bad defense, because I don't know how good this Broncos team is really going to be.
I'm going to stash New Orleans Saints wide receiver Bub Means. I love me some Bub from the limited film I could find on him. When I filled the sheet out, he was at the 512. He's free now because his current ADP is the 603. Not many leagues have 6-round drafts, which tells me that you can get him as a UDFA. So he's basically a fab buck at this point, maybe two. He's not the best pure route runner. I think he's a good downfield threat.
Mm-hmm.
He's fairly productive with the ball in his hands. A career A.Nate of 16.9 and above average yak rack of 5.5. Stat-wise, not a ton there, but he's a good player that was always on a bad team. It feels those things happen. He's a 2-star prospect and a 3-star transfer prospect, in case you're wondering. Check out the New Orleans Saints depth chart, by the way. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and A.T. Perry are in front of him. So
it's a great trio right there, Mike. Come on.
There's a possibility of him getting some snaps. I'm not going to say right away, but fairly recent or fairly soon. You could trade back from the 4th for a couple of 24 fifths. People tend to collect a lot of 5th-round picks. I used to. For whatever reason, I didn't have a lot of late-round picks this year, especially in leagues where I was doing well. I tried to just use whatever I could to win the championship. Hey, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Ben Swarnick, a 25 4th, or Tim Patrick.
He's still kicking around, apparently.
So I did correct any ADP disparities moving forward, but Nate, your guy stayed the same.
Really? I'm surprised. He's probably moving down the board because Malik Washington, who I thought could be the wide receiver 3 for the Miami Dolphins, well, Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the Dolphins, so I guess Malik Washington now moves to the wide receiver 4. But I'll tell you, as a Ravens fan, OBJ is probably going to miss some time at some point. So Malik Washington will have an opportunity this year. Currently going at the 411, which you can go acquire for a 25 4th, no problem. Malik Washington is someone I'm really, really excited about. He dropped farther in the draft than I thought he would. Hey, I can say the Dolphins were really excited to get him. Apparently, Mike McDaniel was bothering his GM for multiple rounds, saying, hey, you got to go get this guy, get this guy. They finally did. He was super excited to get him in there. He told him, hey, you're going to have opportunity right away. We're going to let you go and grab this position, this slot role if you want it. So they did bring in OBJ. That path to production is a little bit harder now, but still OBJ is on a 1-year deal. Malik Washington is someone that I think really fits this Miami Dolphins offense. He's fast. He's elusive after the catch. This is a guy that caught a lot of passes as well, so he can handle volume. When he was playing at Virginia this past year, he had a career year with 111 receptions for 1,300 yards. 84 on top of that. It's almost 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. Was one of the best graded wide receivers according to PFF with a 91 grade. So Malik Washington really broke out this year, looked great. Also, Mike, we love the yak rec, 6.4 yak rec this past season from Malik Washington. And that's something he's always been good at. He has a career yak rec of 5.9. So fast, productive, good after the catch, gets open as well, handles a lot of catches. So, he's got good hands too. Drop percent over his career of 2.5%, does not have a lot of drops. I love Malik Washington. Mike McDaniel loves Malik Washington, and he's not expensive to buy, especially now after the OBJ signing. So you can pick him up at the end of the 4th, early 5th, maybe even at this point. I love that value. Throw him in the taxi squad. If he doesn't do anything this year, that's okay. He might have an opportunity next year, depending on what the Dolphins decide to do with their wide receiver core.
So a couple corrections. The only ADP correction that we had was your Audric Estime. All your other guys, they maintain their value. Jadavian Sanders went from the 302 to the 304, so he's falling a little bit.
Oh.
We talked about Jalen McMillan already. We talked about Bub Means, and my next and last guy, when I filled it out, he was at the 404, bumped up a little bit to the 402. That is Los Angeles Chargers running back Kimani Vidal. We mentioned him on the last podcast. I like Gus Edwards. 2-year deal. I'm out on J.K. Dobbins. You can go back and re-listen to me telling you that he missed 42 games in 4 seasons. Man, Kimani Vidal, he's a thick boy, 5'8", 218, and he runs through contact well. How well, Nate? Do you really want to know?
I would love
to. It doesn't matter. You're going to hear it anyway. Of his 3,998 career rushing yards, 2,749 of them were after contact. That is 68.7% of his yards are after contact. That is how you become an effective running back. And for anyone that's saying, well, he played at Troy, I'd rather draft Dylan Lobb. Think about that statement that you just said. Oh, because he's a PPR back. Stop it. 5 career games over 200 rushing yards, by the way. Very productive. And right now, he's fairly affordable. The value around that pick is guys like A.J. Dillon, Juwan Johnson, Parker Washington. Don't know what's going to happen with him. Had high hopes. Not seeing it right now. You could tear up with 2 later 24 fourths or do a tear down from the late 3rd. I mentioned that before, trading down for Jalen McMillan. You could probably make a similar deal to get Kimani Vidal as well.
And another guy, Mike, because I had to throw him on here, we got to talk about him. Our guy, Cody Schrader. We love Cody Schrader. Went to the 49ers, and there's always a chance for running backs when they go to the 49ers. So someone I would, in deeper leagues, I would not mind stashing on my taxi slot.
So those are our round 3, 4, 5 stashes, and in Bub Means' case, round 6. If you got a 6th round of your draft, I know some leagues do. Again, thank you for listening. So until next time, everybody, for Nate, I'm Mike. We'll see you then.